Retailers embraced self-checkout long before they understood the consequences. Rising shrink, frustrated shoppers, and subsequently painful course correction. Now AI is taking those lessons learned and building something smarter. But as our stores become more and more intelligent, they're also becoming more watched and recorded. And the innovation curve is moving faster than regulations can keep up with. So we're thrilled to have John Goodwin in the studio with us. He's spent decades building this technology from the inside, first at NCR, now at Fujitsu. He's going to help us explore what's next and whether retailers can finally get this right. So welcome to Retail OCD. We're retail operators who spent our careers on the inside and we're still obsessed with it. I'm Deanne Campbell, store design, operations, and customer experience strategist.
And I'm Barney Stacher. I'm Chief Conversation Officer here with Retail OCD, and my background started in hospitality with Hyatt and Macy's, and I like to be at the place where humans cross technology and the retail. I'm really happy that we have John here. Perhaps I've used some of his technology at NCR back when I was working on the POSs, and one of the things I admire about you is you're a patent holder, which is great. So you really understand the technology behind it, but you also have, with Fujitsu and everything else, a real human point of view about this. And so take it away, John. Talk about yourself, your experience, and what you bring to this.
Yeah, I started in this game 40 plus years ago as a point of sale developer. And we were in the hypermarket world, both US and international. And I cut my teeth on the number one retailer in the world at that time, not the new number one retailer in the world, the number one retailer in the world at that time, and spent my time chasing all the hypermarkets around the world. And then a little thing came along called self-checkout, and we started jumping on that bandwagon. And we played in other technologies of electronic shelf label. We played in kiosk world. We played in a bunch of other worlds, payment world, kiosk payment world, everything else like that. So we've done that. We've taken care of the new number one retailer for a while and helped them through some technologies and going there. So it's been a lot of fun, changing every day. And now at Fujitsu, we are rebranding and retaking all of our self-checkout to the new world.
John, I'm so excited to have you on here because self-checkout has been something I've been talking about, thinking about for years because it's so important to the customer journey, customer experience in store. And as Barney said, you're a patent holder.
Yes.
And I think back in 2001, you were granted this patent to do a self-checkout system with RFID. And so I'm really excited because you were part of designing self-checkout right from the beginning, I can get a definitive answer to this question that I ask everybody. Was self-checkout ever really designed for the customer, or was it always intended to be a way to reduce headcount?
We're asking the Oracle.
I know I'm putting you on the spot, but
It's all your fault, John.
It is all my fault.
Retailers say, and there's what happens. Now I can really ask the source, what was really the design intent behind self-checkout?
The original design intent was to take 2 weeks of training that you would give, 2+ weeks of training that you would give for a point of sale cashier and make someone an expert in 30 seconds. Now, the problem is that the implementation that we've got by a lot of self-checkout companies now, they don't do that. The human factors investment that they're making in order to make the self-checkout usable by the standard user, they just want to take their standard point of sale, drop it on some self-service device and say, I've got self-checkout. And if you've got something, it takes 2 weeks. Okay, so it doesn't take 2 weeks anymore to train them, but it only takes a week to train them, the cashier. And you're expecting a standard user to come, shopper to come use it and be an expert on it in 30 seconds, it's not going to happen. That's the root problem right there. And so the original answer was it was supposed to be that way. However, bottom line is that you always had problems where it required a certain amount of assistance from retailers in order to get you through the line. It always required age verification. We knew that, right? It always required maybe some receipt verification, things like that. But for the most part, it was supposed to be allowing a customer to move on their own with minimal training in order to move forward.
See, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
If they'd done that from the beginning, I think it would have been incredibly successful.
Yeah.
And the fact that retailers have taken it in a different direction is really disappointing.
Yeah. Now, a lot of that happened because of theft and fraud and all the other stuff, right? So it had to become more difficult. It had to become harder. So they had to put more friction into it. And the more times you've got to put friction into it, the more frustration gets into it, the more assistance is needed, the more everything else. And it, like everything in life, one or two bad people ruin the experience for the majority of the users.
Amen. I could not say that better. The impact of that friction is incredible. The lack of a human available to mitigate an issue, the
Yep.
fact that it wasn't thought of in terms of, again, I think of it in hospitality terms and service, and that's completely lost.
That's my
It's literally from behind him.
Was that
I
a
love
comment? Was
Yeah.
that a comment on me? Are you telling me I'm cuckooed?
Sometimes you are, but that's
You would be right, my friend. You would be right.
my little friend coming in at just the right time.
So, John, I wanted to ask a question. There's laws that are being passed.
Oh, yeah.
And now that says if you have 10 stations of self-checkout, you have to have 10 more cash register stations staffed. Now, what I was always under the assumption of was people were really pushing back on this from the COVID mandates of the touchless cash registers. Obviously, Home Depot got rid of theirs because of obviously a lot of theft that was occurring. Not technically shoplifting, but a more friendly theft of just you go to buy a nut and bolt, go up there, you only scan one and you move on. But I guess what is this sort of impetus for this? Is this really people are trying to get more service in stores, or are people just, you know what, it's a union play? What is the impetus for causing a lot of this to occur?
I think it's a lot of things. I think it's union, number one, which, okay, I understand. Number two, I think it's frustration of, hey, I'm doing work and I think I'm taking somebody else's job. And I'll expand upon that a little bit. I have a favorite retailer in the Midwest who every time somebody complains about self-checkout and, hey, I can't stand using self-checkout. I wish you would hire more people up front, et cetera, everybody in a store is trained just to hand that person an application and say, we would love to have you as part of our staff. You can't hire people. That doesn't mean that the legislatures don't understand. They don't understand that, right? And they're making a political play in order to get marketing points in order to move down that way. And so it's just another one of the, political points that are out there, right?
Yeah, it doesn't jive with the reality of what you are experiencing on the ground as a retailer of needing someone who can provide, same thing, again, hospitality, a level of service.
These retailers can't get it.
And they're catering to the lobby groups, not necessarily the retailers themselves.
But the reality is these big retailers are heavy lobbyists, right? They have the funds. It seems like it's a kind of an odd place where people are doing line in the sand, right? They're drawing those lines of where it's on self-checkout. Is it really self-checkout, or are they looking at it as an alternative? It's certainly not about theft. I don't think any legislator is even wading into that. And most stores have this policy, which I think is somewhat dumb, of just let them steal it, right? And I'm like, great, now I pay more money for M&Ms. But I guess is it really, this is the line in the sand, or is it masking something else?
I think it's masking something else. And I don't think retailers want just to let people steal. Came out with a study last month or so, and they published a statistic that said for every $1 stolen, it takes $16 worth of sales in order to make up for it.
Do that.
It's a 16-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
So retailers are not into this for just letting people steal. There's a big problem there. And I'm not smart enough to come up with that number. That's Greg and his company, right? They're brilliant people in order to be able to do that, but it's a 16-to-1 ratio. I think he did it in $10 and $160, but it's still a 16-to-1 ratio.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because I would imagine there's some sort of risk reward calculation.
There is. The stat that I saw was self-checkout experiences 4 times the theft that a full service checkout does.
Yeah.
I'll say shrink. It's not all.
But
Some of it is accidents, so it's not
where
necessarily.
the legislative bodies are not doing things to help the retailer. Very few of the legislative bodies it's all misdemeanors. Most of the theft is misdemeanor. Very few have stepped up and said, we're going to allow you as a retailer to build a case on multiple thefts and put it together to turn it into a felony.
Yeah.
And then we'll prosecute the felony. If the legislative bodies really cared, they would do that and help the retailer, and they would stop this kind of stuff.
If anything, I think the legislation is working against the retailer, because most of it coming out is protecting the privacy of the shopper. So
Yeah.
it's really regulating out cameras and video recording and all the things that retailers need to prevent shoplifting.
This whole AI is going to require everything you're talking about, right? And if they're legislating it out, you can't do it. And that's the biggest advancement that we've got going on in order to be able to stop. And it's not just at the self-checkout, right? They're prepping the theft before they get to the self-checkout. Always keep it handy, right? This is one of the, do not do this in stores, right? But this is one of the biggest, thefts.
Don't do this at home, kids.
Yeah. This is one of the cheapest items in a grocery environment, right? And if you have it already placed on the bottom of a steak to where it purposely covers the UPC of a steak, right? And you
I haven't even thought of that. You're right. Yeah.
No. But everybody who's a thief has thought of this.
Yeah.
And so
They are creative.
And so AI and almost all the big players, right? This is already being caught. And it's, wait a minute, that doesn't look like a pack of Kool-Aid. We don't know what it is, but it's not a pack of Kool-Aid, right?
There's an interesting thing. So this lady, they talked about it in like the New York Times or Google Feed or whatever, where they said she was stealing from stores like Bloomingdale's or whatever. Then they were returning, they took a receipt. You know how you're like handed back the receipt? So whenever I go to return something, I ask, because it's usually you have more than what's on the receipt. So they took the receipt back and they would take a knockoff rug that they would get that was a fraction of it and return that again.
Yeah.
And they were doing it to Home Goods.
Yeah.
So either Home Goods or Kohl's, and they made like $300,000. I mean,
Yeah.
look at it, it was all microtransactions, but they were really, when you look at the numbers, you're like, wait a minute, that's a felony.
That's where RFID is coming in, right? The biggest knock on RFID is that until recently, we haven't had, because in 96, in my previous life, we showed RFID, the cart being at the Olympics in Atlanta. We showed the RFID cart being shoved through the portal and it would read it and all this kind of stuff. But there were problems. It wouldn't have read on my cup because it's metal. It wouldn't have read on this bottle of water because of the
shape.
Yeah, because it's just pure physics. But there was another hidden problem until recently, about the last year or so, that nobody really fixed. And that was in meats and in bakery, a lot of time people take product home and freeze it. and then they take it back out and they thaw it. And when you put an RFID tag in the microwave that's not intended to go in a microwave, it will catch the product on fire.
Really?
Yeah. And just a fun experiment.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's an accidental and it's still a liability as far as it goes. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. There's a new, I wouldn't call it a technology, but it is a technology. Technology is anything that is a utility to help you advance an action. And it's GS1 2D barcodes.
Yeah.
They don't do the same thing as RFID, but they're being used in tandem with RFID. Perhaps they could be helpful. Are you seeing that more often now to maybe solve some of those issues?
Yeah. So let me make sure I clarify the RFID. They do have RFID tags now that can be frozen and microwaved.
Okay.
Let me just say that again clearly, right? They do have them now that do that. I don't want my friends in the RFID industry. But yeah, GS1 can have certain indicators inside of it where we can do that, right? And you could have manufacturer, and it depends on how you store it. But it would also tell you on that rug. But what they're doing on that return is they're replacing all of the barcode and everything with it. In Josh, in your example, so they would be replacing the GS1 barcode along with it and fooling everybody from that standpoint. And that becomes hard. That's why the RFID it makes it a lot harder to do.
Can we go back to the original question? You said you thought it was. So my question to you was really, a lot of these laws are maybe masking something else that's larger that's happening.
Yeah.
I'm curious. This is something that's been bothering me since these laws started being passed around. I'm like, I understand the whole Maryland law about dynamic pricing. That's a topic we're going to get into.
But I'm not going to get into that.
That's different because some of it's a reactionary state to what's happening online, which Amazon's been doing forever, and to a lesser degree, some of these other stores. But I guess the bigger question for you is self-checkout. Really? That's what you're picking, drawing a line on the sand on? What else is there something else that's driving that says, hey, other than the cheap points that they're making and it's a defenseless target? But I don't know. I go to Costco, waiting in those lines suck, right? The self-checkout lines, if I have one item, I don't want to wait behind a guy that has 45 items trying to check out. That's crazy.
I haven't, Josh, I haven't figured it out yet, right?
Yeah.
And I'm still trying to figure it out because what they're going to say, they're going to be able to tout, hey, I'm helping the retailer reduce shrink. I'm helping you as a customer by having that personal touch back in the store. I'm helping put jobs back in my district and everything again. Look what I'm doing for the economy. What they're really doing is they're going to cause out of stock conditions on the shelf edge, because I'm going to have to take people who are really stocking the shelves now. That's where I had been using them, or the in-store
customer
pickup.
Service.
Yeah.
Customer service issues.
Yeah.
Customer service is going to decline because they have to do checkout.
Yeah. I'm going to have to stop doing in-store pickup business that I was doing in order to be able to do that. I'm going to have to stop doing that. Just on and on. I'm going to have to stop doing in order to bring those people up front in order to do it, because the people just don't exist to go higher.
Is it because we've gotten to such states, RFID, dynamic pricing, lots of these other pieces of technologies have removed some of those friction points that are human dependent?
Well, I know it's several grocers that I've talked to, they do want to hire them at the store level.
Yeah.
And they do have troubles
Correct.
finding
That's
those
what
people.
John
Yes.
is saying there, and that
Yeah.
again, the politics of it is not related to the actual current state of the market. And so regardless of that and the regulatory, there's again the current state of the market and what technologies are really the transformative ones right now and looking forward. And also I would just want to mention, in terms of privacy, in terms of face recognition or on device, not necessarily checkout, but I've seen now that there's age approval integration into self-checkout so that you can walk up with your bottle of single malt scotch.
Yep.
If anybody wants to know.
Hey, Barney, what are you telling us?
I'm a
We're coming
fisherman.
over to Barney's house.
What can I say?
We tested that in the States in a store, a couple of stores actually, about 7 or 8 years ago, being able to do facial estimation, biometric estimation in order to be able to do that.
Sure.
The problem is in the United States is that age verification and age approval, if you will, is all, for most part, local jurisdictional control.
Yeah. Especially with alcohol and cigarettes.
Yeah. And even though we have what's called the ATF, it's run locally and nobody wants to fight the battle. Now it's taken hold in Europe and you're able to go broader there. There's a couple of countries that have given approval in order to be able to give biometric approval at that particular time.
How does that work, though? Is it strictly facial recognition? Because some people look young and some people look old. And how does
It's much, some people do a challenge 30, right? To where if you look under 30, then if you look over 30, they're going to say, okay, you're good to go. And they don't check your ID. Other places check your ID if you look my age.
Right.
So at stadiums, right? Sports stadiums,
Yeah.
they mandate it for everybody. Literally on the checkout screen, you have to punch it.
Yep.
Otherwise, they don't even let you walk out, which I understand. It's sometimes frustrating, but I understand it and I totally get it. But the idea of rolling down to the corner liquor store, bribing the homeless guy who's sitting outside, getting him to go in for a 6-pack and then hanging out with your friends with it, that sounds like what they're trying to prevent at this point.
Yeah, they're trying to prevent it. Now, I've got a convenience store retailer of mine that you watch them and they see somebody at the pump pull up and the people behind the register see them start to walk in and they go, that's so, and they smoke whatever or use whatever and they pull it off the shelf and they buy 2 packs every 2 days and they'll have it ready when they get to the register and they still got to pull their ID out and scan the back in order to be able to do it because it's just company policy, even though they know that every 2 days they come in and buy 2 packs of this particular thing and there's no way for them to override. And
Again, somebody in the legal department said there's a liability there.
and we're not going to let it get around.
We're not going to let there be a workaround.
That's
And
the benefit of that, though, is it takes the pressure off the employee. They don't have to make excuses. They can just say, I'd love to, but I can't. The system won't allow me.
There's a lot to be said standing behind the machine when an exception happens.
So let's talk about Amazon Go, right? So Amazon, the whole idea was to walk into the store using your cell phone, right? Biometrics, whatever you want to call it, proximity sensors, and literally you walk in and you put a bunch of stuff on and you walk out the door. They basically said no more checkout, essentially. It's literally, we're going to scan what's in your cart and away you go.
In theory, yeah.
In theory, Amazon could get away with it, right? They could take the losses, theft or otherwise, because they can. They're also basically saying, this is what you do. And if it doesn't work, it's on them, not on the individual.
Yeah.
There's been so much build out. I remember that conversation occurring in 1990 with AT&T.
Yeah.
I remember the whole series of commercials about it. They're very vivid in my head. I guess my question is, the whole goal is to make this frictionless checkout as easy as possible.
Yeah.
Are we saying at this point, nope, you know what? We're going back to the way it was. Even, yes, the technology, the scanning and all that stuff is newer, but the reality is still, you put it on a conveyor belt, you walk out the door. Or are we still trying to move forward with the sort of that, you put it under your trench coat and away you walk out the door?
I think eventually we'll get to something similar to just walk out. But right now, the compute power to do that and the sheer number of cameras required to do that. I went into a store implementation of that, right? And there were, I'm making a number up, there were 4,732,000 cameras in a store, right? I mean, it was an ungodly number of cameras.
So we tried it at Kmart. We did it for the food section, the grocery section, at the front of the store. We did it for 2 reasons. One was, on average, it would take to check out 3 minutes and 19 seconds per checkout transaction, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And what does Penn Station sit on top of? Long Island Railroad.
Yeah.
If anybody's ever been inside of Penn Station, when they announced the Long Island Railroad train, you have 90 seconds to get to the train. That's it. And then the train pulls out. So it's a literally it's like a mosh pit of people going to that one exit and going to the train. If you're standing inside of a Kmart or any store for that matter, trying to check out, you drop what it is and you leave. So that the ability to speed up the checkout was significantly important. So we tried the self-checkout thing. And I will tell you, it was an exercise of restraint.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that literally we were like, oh, we're going to do this. We're going to do it with iPads. We're going to do it with facial recognition. We're going to do all this stuff. And no, it didn't work at all. It flopped like an hour in.
Well,
So we had a pile in the corner. There was a pile of food and drinks, and they had a person whose designated job was to put everything back. Literally after every single train check, because this was a real problem. There were so many variations that we had to figure out. It was the amount of money we were going to spend almost equal to what we were going to make.
Let's talk about that expense, because John was talking about 43 million cameras in a particular location, and I get it. And we won't go into the digital pricing signage, electronic signage aspect at all, but it is that computing power and the cost of the computing power. And again, I come from hospitality, and Deanne had posted about this recently about we forgot about keeping the human in from the get-go. So where are we in the arc of technology? What's really working? Again, back to that question of what are you seeing is working in terms of the RFID on every single moment product, the personal attachment to that by their device, et cetera. So I'll let you roll.
I've seen technology curves in my span of being in this business, but I am not seeing anything like what we're seeing now, ever. We are on the steepest curve I've ever seen before. And it's not just in one area, because they're able to take the technology and apply it everywhere, from shelf sensors to item identification via imaging to other types of sensors to just tracking people to you name it. They've got what's going on from that standpoint. And when you start combining all of those pieces together, I think we're going to get to the point of being able to go to where you want to go, Josh, of being able to do a just walk out store quicker than I ever imagined 6 years ago, 7 years ago, and even laughed at, because I was part of AT&T for a while when they showed some of those early commercials, right? Thinking that's just never going to happen, right? Because I knew the compute power we had at that particular point in time. But now that we've done this and got this AI available to us, and now that I see the advancements we are able to make, do I think it's going to be next week? No. Do I think it's going to be next year? Probably not. But do I think we're going to get there in a reasonable amount of time? Yes. What's going to be the difference is some of these companies that are bringing it to edge, being able to do it from that standpoint. We can't rely on cloud, and we can't rely on back-end video servers either. I think we're going to have to do it at edge to make these decisions, and then relay it to systems that then process it as they go on. From that standpoint, we have to break this apart, do distributed processing on it in order to move forward.
Until such a time, as you said, compute need and compute power, and what AI has done is broken Moore's law.
Yeah, I tried to do the first Unix system for a hypermarket and also put a relational database on it. And it just wasn't fast enough back in the mid 80s. Nothing was fast enough in order to be able to do that. And it wasn't a failure at that particular point in time. It just, the compute power just wasn't there. But you look at it now, there's no retailer in the world that would not have some type of database structure looking at all their pieces anymore somewhere in their infrastructure. Right? That's unheard of. But that was the first one back in the mid 80s. And it was just too early. I think that just walk out was just a little too early, but it set the bar for us to know where we need to go, and to know that you can't have 43 million cameras. You got to find another way to do it. You got to have everything else.
I
So
think
here-
Men's Club comes pretty close to having a system that emulates Just Walk Out by using the consumer's own phone and an app, and then they scan at the exit. And I think that comes a little closer to meeting the requirements of Just Walk Out without having the camera system, although you do need some kind of backup check system for theft, but maybe not.
They are using a backup check system, right? In order to do that, they're using their app in order to be able to scan, and then they're using AI to look at the cart as you go out and verify as many items as they can.
Yeah.
And then also look for items that would be big and theft prone and things like that. That would be, okay, I see a TV, but there's not a TV on that receipt. Type.
And the benefit of that system is because you have to download the app, you can track behavior and
You're a
ensure
number.
that
Yeah,
check.
and you have a trust score associated. Yeah.
And the
But I was-
biometrics locks that in.
I was going to ask about that. So we all, if you travel, especially by air,
Clear.
clear, you have TSA pre-check, you have to go for a background check. Now anyone has to go up to the little screen, take a picture of themselves, and they say it's deleted. Who knows if it is? The reality is there are lots of first movers out there, maybe one of them, who will embrace technology and say, you know what? I'll go give them my face. I do it on my phone anyway, so I'll give you my face on Face ID, allow you, or my fingerprint or whatever, if it makes it more convenient for me to be quote unquote authenticated that I am who I say I am. Or retailers in general going to embrace that?
Retailers are pretty risk aversive, right? Now, we showed something at NRF this past year that was biometric based, and it was pretty cutting edge. We set it up as if you were a known thief and you walked up and you tried to use self-checkout. And so we had several of our people in the known theft list, if you will. Most of the people were not in the known theft list, but we had a couple people in that known theft list. And if they tried to use self-checkout, and after they scanned the first item, the system went to a special mode and said, you can't use self-checkout. It recognized the biometric face and shut the transaction down at that particular point in time. Now, there are other biometrics that are being used by a lot of retailers that will alert store management and go ahead and call 911 and all those types of things, just saying they're walking in and they're walking in en masse, and go ahead and have them ready because there's
They're
3 or 4
coming.
walking in.
You see all these things behind cages now or behind locked glass.
Yeah.
They don't let you buy it. I am trying to buy like deodorant, right? And they were like, yeah, you have to call over to buy the deodorant. And then we take it and bring it back to the counter.
No.
The guy wouldn't give it to me. And I was like, no, I'll just go over and buy
Yeah,
it.
they'll
So I'm gonna
walk
buy some
into the
prescriptions. And they're like, no, you have to go to the counter and we will hand it to you. Otherwise, we're not.
Depends on the
selling it.
store. It depends on the item.
Right.
Yeah,
I've had it
the-
done
I
both
guess so.
ways.
But I guess that goes to the ultimate question of, isn't that eliminating the risk point for what we were talking about on the other stuff with regards to self-checkout? I mean, Costco doesn't let you buy a TV. You have to go through the steps, or Walmart, same thing, where they are literally requiring you to bring it on the card to the counter.
There's a lot of levels you can put in place like that. And artificial intelligence on theft at self-checkout is another one, right? So how far do you lock it down? You could look at regional or store level. This is a high theft store, so I'm going to lock it down more. And I'm sorry, all you other people who shop here, but this store is going to get a lot more scrutiny than other stores. But just 5 miles down the road, the store of the same brand is not going to be locked down as much because it has a much lower theft level. I'm a firm believer that where we're going to go is a combination of, and I'll use groceries as a perfect example. I don't care who picks up my box of cereal and my canned goods and stuff like that, right? I'm a little particular about my marshmallows. I don't want them stuck together, but for the rest of the stuff in the store, I don't care, right? I do care about picking up my fruits and vegetables. I do care about picking up my meats, things like that. So if I could go into a store and initiate the order for you to go shop the rest of the store for me and let me pick out my fruits, vegetables, meats, bakery items, and things like that. And then hit the button and we meet at the same time. And that way I don't have to just do that quick shop and then go wait in line for the delivery to come out to it. I want you to know I'm in store. Go ahead and start picking the rest of it and say, okay, now I'm done. Start bringing it up front. And, oh, I see you're going to lane 4, whatever lane 4 is, whether it be a checkout or a staffed lane, I don't care. And you meet me and say, here's the rest of your stuff, Mr. Goodwin, take on.
Yeah. Or put it in a lockbox.
Yeah,
so that I can get it.
I'd rather, that's another friction point. I don't want to stop it.
So, John, you had said something really impactful, I think, and that's talking about the steepness of the learning curve, crazy steep. And it's only going to escalate to more than we can even comprehend, I think. How is a retailer? Retailers have implemented self-checkout to some extent. Some of them are pulling them out entirely or pulling back on them because they don't know what to do. There are new forms of checkouts coming in. AI is solving some of the problems, not some of the problems. It's continuing to evolve. Talk a little bit about the retailer economics. How is a retailer today going to manage the economics of what is happening in the industry? What should they do you think, to not lose their shirts and stay agile for what's coming, to manage what they have? What would you recommend and what do you think would work?
There's already enough AI out there to help them on produce recognition, on barcode swapping, misscans, all this. And that covers about, depending on how you want to estimate the number and who's doing the estimate, somewhere between 30 and 70%. And I'll let you go figure out how to come up with your own number, between 30 and 70% of the fraud that's happening out there or theft, because there's a lot of people that are just making honest mistakes. And the honest mistake people, if they're nudged in order to go correct it, they'll just correct it and move forward. The ones that are trying to really steal will steal from you. And those are going to take a next level of AI in order to move forward. If you go and you solve 30 to 70%, I think it's going to be closer to the bigger number, then you're going to really make a number into it, and it's going to be worthwhile moving down that road. And you need to go into a system that's open enough to be able to add other technologies onto it. That's going to be my recommendation.
So is it more hardware? It sounds like it's moving more into the software side of self-checkout rather than hardware.
Eventually the hardware itself, the SCO itself, the original self-checkout will be the meaningless part of self-checkout. Right.
Yeah, the hardware becomes matters not.
It'll be a necessary matters not, right? But it's the other pieces, and you got to do it right. It goes back to some of my original comments of the intent was we had to do this thing and make everybody an expert in 30 seconds. If I start putting friction in such a way to where I drive off all my customers, then I'm not doing it right.
To me, it makes me think of ADA requirements.
Exactly.
Where any store person or customer that's having friction with it is going to abandon it. Yeah. And not want to come back to that experience.
Yeah.
So make the transaction easy and hospitable.
Yeah. You don't want to know that you're using AI in order to get you through all this.
I guess I want to take the spin on this because Barney mentioned it a couple times. You've mentioned it a couple times. Yeah. There's a huge loyalty component of this. If you have a really good experience, you're going to shop there more and more often. Can we talk about with self-checkout, is that an opportunity to do loyalty programs? So we talk about digital, right? We talk about e-commerce, but what's great about e-commerce? You know what they abandoned, right? You know what they were looking at in their car. It's called product abandonment. You can browse abandonment. You can see what people are searching for. The biggest hurdle in store is you lose some of that. Is there an opportunity with the self-checkout side, a huge opportunity to build loyalty leverage the mobile app, leverage the ability to see, okay, they were down this aisle, they were checking out. Yes, you need cameras, but in some cases, just proximity sensors on your cell phone, right? Are there huger opportunities? I know huger is not a word, but are there bigger opportunities to be able to say, you know what, this is a loyalty option. We can really give you a very personalized, customized experience and also save you some money.
I think that it's always been the play on it, right? Is that there's advertising space, there's dead space on the screen in order to do anything you want to do. I know that there's one major retailer that uses it very well. They have a big marketing arm in order to be able to do it. And they use the banner along the top in order to market.
Retail media dollars.
Yeah. And they take advantage of it. Now it's generic and they get paid back for the eyeballs that are using it and be able to do it, to help implement that in order to be able to do that thing. So the key though, in what you're taking is trying to take it to the next level and do a personalized loyalty program in order to be able to do it. I would think so, but then you got to opt into proximity sensors and you got to be able to do all the other things that go along with that. With all the privacy that's out there in the world today of tracking and knowing what's going on, even though I hold patents in that space, being able to track people and know where people are going and what they're doing. I think you've got to be careful knowing who they are and where they're going and their dwell times and all that type of stuff, and what you're going to market for and market against them.
The interesting part is, and this is where it gets interesting about privacy, is that courts have ruled that private stores are private. It's a private place. They can refuse entry. Yeah. And so I guess that's the question. There's obviously all these privacy things and people are very cognizant of it, but do we care?
I don't know how to make that next leap. Once you're in my store, I'm going to take information from you. And then, but there has been a lot of retailers I have worked with their legal didn't want to make that next leap.
Yeah.
And it's
the bottom line.
And that's what it comes. Their legal doesn't want to make that next leap.
They just won't do it.
Big risk considering states that are in the process of changing regulation.
And it's not that they don't think it's a great idea.
John, with evolution being what it is and you're in the thick of it and what's coming with your work at Fujitsu, I've always said that checkout in general is the last touch point a customer has with that brand before they leave your store. If it's a great one, they're going to remember the experience well and they'll come back. If it's a terrible experience, they're not going to come back, but they need an experience. So that's one reason why just walk out failed. There was no experience or it was a bad experience. But you need some kind of transition from shopping to buying to leaving the store. And self-checkout, if it's done well, can be that great transition. What is coming that is going to enable and help with that great transition to make that last touch point a great experience as they're leaving the store? Do you see progress in that as people are moving onto their phones? Is there something that's going to help with a transition from shopping to exiting the store with some kind of acknowledgement of thank you for purchasing, here's your receipt, or thank you, come back again, to transition through some kind of checkout process or payment process?
I think with the introduction of multimodal checkout, and what I mean by that is the ability to check out via barcode, via RFID, via Digimark, via all the vision, and all of them combined together. The original barcode scanner, you had to have it. It was only a one barcode reader, and you had to have it positioned exactly over it. And then we came out with bioptic, and then we came out with omnidirectional bioptic, to where we did, if you will, 6-sided reading in order to be able to do that. And so now, how can I help you do it to where it doesn't matter as long as you're moving and doing what you need to do? We recognize the product and it's smooth in order to be able to do it to where I'm not sitting there in order to try to get it to scan or whatever else. So the frustration level goes down. And then I recognize that you're not trying to cheat me when you do something. I know you're a good person. I've now scored you somehow, whether it be through a loyalty program or whatever else. You've got a good score from that standpoint. I know what's going on, and I give you a lot more flex. Maybe I recognize you got children with you, and I know that child is over here playing with the weigh scale, and I'm going to give you some slack, right? Because I recognize little hands and feet from that standpoint, right? Something like that to be able to give you some ease. But these are all what AI can help us do in order to put everything together and then process it as we move forward. If biometrics allow us to go down that route, can I recognize? I checked into the airport the other day with touchless TSA. I didn't have to pull out my phone. I didn't have to pull out a boarding pass. I didn't have to do anything. I just walked up and she said, stand here. She took a picture of my face and I walked right through. So can I use that to not verify my age, but to have a wallet associated with me? And now I'm not searching through my purse if I'm a female, or I'm not pulling out my wallet in order to try to find the payment that I want. It pulls up what I've got registered and I pick what I want on the screen from that standpoint. And it's helping me in order to be able to do that. These are the technologies I think we can move forward with that would make a big difference in order to make that transition so much smoother for somebody to get them out the door.
Is there some prediction that you're willing to go out on a limb and make in 5 years' time and be wrong about? You think it might be interesting and is in the beginnings of work in progress?
I said it earlier. I think self-checkout will become the least important part of the self-checkout. I hope I'm right about that, because I think the other things, the computer vision, the fraud and everything else become more important, and that the user interfaces will become so good that you don't know any of that is existing, right? And it just flows in such a way. I think I would also like to see that, this one's going to sound crazy and it was take too long to explain here, that most retailers would have fewer traditional lanes than they do today. Now, does it mean that there's not some other technology coming along that's somewhere between self-checkout and a traditional lane? But there's not just Susie or Jimmy sitting behind the register doing the scanning for you. Is there some other way to get you out of the store that would make everybody feel a whole lot better and not think that they're being taken advantage of?
Yeah.
Do you think self-checkout is here to stay? It's not going anywhere, regulations and legislatures be damned? Or do you think, there's a sort of inflection point here, whether it looks the same, acts the same, but self-checkout is on its way out?
I think it's going to be here. There's a lot of people say it's not, but I think it's going to be here. I'm also a believer that cash is going to be here forever. I go to parts of South Carolina where I live, right? And if you try to pull a debit card out, they look at you like, but then again, I go to certain parts of the United States. If you try to pull cash out, they look at you like you got four heads. But
what's cash? I don't know.
Exactly. But cash is king in certain parts of the United States still, and they're not going to give it up. And
where is self-checkout not that you've seen that it should be?
I think it needs to be in some of the smaller independents, but I think there's a cost barrier in their mind that they can't get there for them, because they're facing the same problems, and they can't stop. They can't do everything they got to do. And maybe it doesn't need to be the self-checkout that we know of today. Maybe it needs to be this next gen one that we're hopefully starting to play with a little bit. We'll get them to.
That's on device and that people can utilize without burdening those retailers with, you said, the hardware load that's required.
Yeah.
Is there anything we didn't ask you that we should have that you want to talk about?
I think self-checkout has gotten a bad rap. And I think it's gotten a bad rap because of a lot of the people who say they've got self-checkout don't understand self-checkout. And just like all the people, they cause a problem, right? The majority cause a problem for the few that try to do it right.
Yeah.
And it takes some smarts and brilliance in order to do it right. And there's 4 or 5 companies that do it right. A lot of companies that do it wrong. And when you do it right, it could be a really good product. Now, is it for everybody? Meaning every customer? And the answer is no. My dad's still not a fan.
Yeah. You speak to a few things, which is the ability to process all types of transactions, whether it's cash or otherwise, to meet the customer that wants to transact as they wish.
Yeah.
And so the idea is back to hospitality. Do we make it easy for this person? That's the bottom line.
I think it has more of a storytelling problem than an actual technology problem.
A translation problem, as you said, John, it's about spending the time or having the right process so the behavior is changed and it's changed on both the store associate and consumer side without too much friction.
Is there something that retailers today can do easily without spending a lot of money to start to change that story, to change that perception of their self-checkouts?
I think 2 things. Number 1, work on their user interface. Number 2, I have several things. Number 2, when a problem occurs, make their self-checkout provider tell the customer why the problem. Don't just say error 4 or wait for customer assistance, because if it's something that could have been avoided by the customer doing something different, then take the opportunity while we're waiting for the associate to come over to educate them. If you had not done this, Jimmy or Susie wouldn't be coming over here. And then that at least questions, puts enough question in their mind saying, can you show me how not to ever do that again? Right? So I don't have to waste my time or your time in order to be able to do it. And the third thing is we put the store associates, and we as a software provider and a hardware provider, in a lot of risk situations when we become accusatory. You've stolen from us, right?
Yeah.
Give them an out, right? The system is telling me that.
In New Jersey terms, that's called plausible deniability.
Exactly. Okay.
That's an excellent point. Yeah.
Give them an out, because in New Jersey, and I'll go with New Jersey, they may be riding the same transit home with them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. The system is telling me, I'm so sorry, but the system is telling me
that I've got to do this, right? And that way, when I get on the same bus with you or the same train with you or whatever else, you don't look at me and say, why did you pick me out? It's not
Right.
you picking me out. It's the system. One of the big problems is keeping loyalty versus having loyalty decay.
Yeah.
attrition.
Loyalty decay. Loyalty decay means you're going to go somewhere else on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, so here's a fun question. Let's leave it with a fun question.
All right.
What's the best bleeding edge technology, or the thing that you were like, oh my gosh, this is so cool? What is a good piece of technology that you've experienced that is, this is so fun? This makes it exciting to do your job.
I don't know. You might be under NDA for that.
Make it a publicly recommend thing that's already in the market.
Actually, I am under NDA on the one that's coming out. I'm telling you, there are about 3 that are coming out from some of our providers that are fabulous, that are going to just change the world. I don't know when a couple of them are announcing, but the good news is I get a lot of new stuff, right? And they run ideas past me. But I think the creative use of Digimark and RFID and it's not self-checkout, right? But the creative use of RFID and Digimark in the bakery and meat section to be able to quickly find and discount products in order to be able to cut loss
Really cool.
And so the retailer with a great mindset had rather sell it at a loss from the originally marked price as opposed to throwing it out because of the expiration date.
Yeah.
And they can quickly scan those IDs, right, through Digimark and now GS1 coming out in RFID, and quickly move across it, see them, identify them, find them in order to do that, and then mark down the product in order to be able to let it go forward.
Thank you, John. I have loved every minute of this discussion, and I'm so grateful to have been able to spend this time with you.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thank you again, John. And I don't think any of us have to go on the witness protection program.
We didn't violate any of your NDAs, so thank you.
We stopped you a couple of times, but we're good.
Yeah. And you're on LinkedIn if anyone wants to find you, and we'll have this episode will be on all the usual platforms. We'll also have it on our website, and we'll have the show notes and transcript on our website as well.
All right. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.